You have reached the Geek Elite. Good luck.
Welcome, everybody, to We Have Issues, Geek Elite Media's podcast that is about everything literary. Books, comic books, webcomics, manga. We are here to talk about it. And thank you for joining us on a very special episode of We Have Issues. First, I am joined, as always, by my stalwart sidekick who's always at my side, Josue.
Hello, and fuck, I'm so excited for this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I am too. So, and the reason that we are here, someone joining us for a very special interview, it's comic book writer Jed MacKay.
Hey, how's it going?
That's going great. I'm really excited to have you on here because
Thank you.
I think and we're going to talk about it in a bit, but I think you are just wrapped up working on and are currently working on two characters that really follow I guess under the radar, I guess you would say, in Marvel. And two ones I really like. So anyone who listens to our show knows, and Josue above everybody else knows, the A-list characters, I like them, but it's the B and C's that I really love. And like, that's where my heart is. So very excited about this. So, but I did want to talk to you kind of about some, like your little bit of your past in the comic book,
Sure.
You know, as far as a fan, as well as the industry. So, just to get an idea, like growing up, were you into comics? Was this something that was interested in you? Is this something that came later?
Yeah, I mean, I was always into comics. That's largely what I grew up learning how to read with, and then just, kept into it from there. Like I started reading stuff like the Donald Duck books that were kind of from Gladstone at the time, Carl Barks reprints, Don Rose's stuff. That and Tintin were like my real earliest comic book stuff. And then from there, I went into my dad had boxes and boxes of old comics he collected through, the late 60s through the 70s. And that's basically where most of my comic book reading came from. Like throughout the 90s when I was a kid, I didn't really read a whole lot of new comics because we had to pay for them. And we already had a pile of comics at home. So that's largely what I kind of cut my teeth on comics wise was, mostly Marvel, 70s comics.
That's real. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's just yeah. So that's what. So I grew up reading. I kind of fell out of comics for a little bit, and then just when I was in high school, got back into it. Once the bookstore near my high school started carrying comics, and then I just kind of dived right back in. I was buying enough comics that I'd get the previews magazine every month. Or the previous catalog every month. Yeah. And, just kind of look around, see what was interesting and have the guy order them in. And then, that kind of led to wanting to make comics, and just kind of all downhill from there.
That slippery slope.
It's the dangers of comic books.
Oh yeah.
It really is. That's interesting because, like Josue knows my secret origin in comics, which is kind of ironic. Like in the 90s, I was reading 80s comics myself because my dad bought me a huge box of comics and at an auction, and it was all Simonsons. So it's Thor, X Factor, Power Pack, and that's what I was raised on. So it's just kind of funny. It's very similar. So I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, like through the 90s when you had all the 90s stuff happening, I was busy saying like, so Hawkeye's Atlas now, or Hercules, or whatever the hell he was calling himself.
Yeah, definitely. So,
but yeah,
that's awesome. So, so you're Canadian, right? I believe you're from Prince Edward Island, right?
Yeah, originally.
Cool.
Yeah, awesome. So this is going to lead me into the first book I want to talk about. I have to talk about Alpha Flight.
Yeah.
I love Alpha Flight. I'm not Canadian. I'm as far as from Canadian as you can possibly be, I suppose. But I'm obsessed with Canada. Some of my best friends are Canadians. But I don't have a lot of overlap in Canadian friends and friends who read comics. So I got to know, on behalf of all Americans, is Alpha Flight a really big deal in Canada? Like, legitly?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think Alpha Flight's a really big deal anywhere as much as I love them.
Yeah.
If they were, then we could actually have an Alpha Flight series rather than one issue every, I don't know what, 8 years.
Yeah.
But like I really like Alpha Flight. Obviously, it's like not just because I'm Canadian, but there's such charm about the team and how they're kind of just a bunch of fuck ups in a lot of cases. Like if you go through the Alpha Flight history, a lot of their enemies they've kind of made themselves. Mac's always complaining because he doesn't have any money, and then the team's always being shut down for one reason or another. And then Mac is blown up like twice.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I like about Alpha Flight is summed up in James Vanell Hudson, where he's not a guy who is good at being a superhero. He was never meant to be a superhero, but he still keeps doing it, and I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like no one's ever going to call him one of the greats, but he's not gonna hang up his electromagnetic suit on account of that, even though it's already killed him before.
Yeah.
So
I really like Alpha Flight. Specifically, me and Josue have a love for North Star and Aurora, especially.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love Puck too. I love Puck.
Yeah,
and
Puck's my favorite dude.
He's the best. And so your story in that Alpha Flight collection was around Puck and Marina, but with brief appearances by Aurora and North Star.
Yeah.
Which was great. Like absolutely loved it.
Being very Aurora and North Star.
Totally.
100%. We loved it. So yeah, like that's got to be cool, writing those characters. And like even if it's in a brief little collection, like. And it's done in a really cool way in that it's a flashback with Puck, and I really liked the reference to hell. By the way, the whole like last time I was in hell, I took it over. I was like, yeah, that's great. So that was really great. But I also really loved in the flashback the other characters you chose. I love Fat Cobra. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm obsessed with Immortal Iron Fist. That was great. And then Bloodstone too. So
yeah, Ulysses Bloodstone.
Yeah. So I kind of want to ask about this because it is like a one shot. It's not something ongoing. Were you kind of given just freedom to choose who you wanted to use in that?
Sort of. It was kind of an interesting situation because basically when I started working professionally in comics a couple years ago, I didn't know anybody that worked in comics. And so I was kind of surprised to realize, people who worked as comic professionals lived in Halifax here where I live. So I started hanging out with Ed Brisson, who lives here, who just moved here at the time. And, we both kind of, as you do, you kind of shoot the shit about like, oh, what book would you like to write? What would you like to write? And we both wanted to write Alpha Flight. And I was like, I'm going to give you the best advice that I can give you for your career. They're never going to let either of us write Alpha Flight.
Yeah.
And then I think it was like 6 months later, he's like, yeah, you might get a call to do an Alpha Flight book. I was like, hell yes.
That's awesome.
So by the time he came to me, Ed and Jim had kind of already chopped it up, decided who they wanted to use. Because that was the last addition to the project. Ed wanted to do some McDonald Hudson family drama. Jim was getting in there with excuse me, Snowbird and Talisman. And I was like, shit, yeah, they're leaving Puck and Marina, who nobody likes, but I like because she's the only Atlantic Canadian on the team.
Yeah,
that's where I'm from. So it was funny that because maybe like 8 years ago, as like a mental exercise, I was like, oh, I'm gonna make up just a dream pitch for Alpha Flight where I'll come up with some adventures for them and enemies and stuff like that. Cause it's just something to do to pass the time. Like while I was at school. And this story with Puck and Marina was adapted from one of those kind of dream pitch mental exercises that I had come up with, way back when. So I was like, shit, yeah, I finally got to use that.
That's super dope.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, this idea of the Plodex appearing in the past and being seen as like demonic gods from the sea, like a Cthulhuoid sort of creature, when it's really just a sad alien.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I really liked it, obviously. So
thank you.
That
was my year of Bloodstone, where for some reason or another I got very keen on Ulysses Bloodstone. So I got him I got him in 3 comics that year.
Nice.
So yeah, he was in that Alpha Flight story. He was in the backup of Black Cat #1, and he was in Bizarre Adventures, that anthology anniversary book they did.
Oh, that other one, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Which, yeah,
I like I said, I like the side characters, and I like when people find a way to work them in, and like give them a little bit of love, because every character someone out there loves,
exactly.
And, yeah,
even if that person is only me.
Yeah, right. Like, that kind of takes us on to the first major book I want to talk about, and I think this is a really interesting run. It's your Daredevil run, Man Without Fear.
Oh yeah.
5-issue mini, I believe it was. And from what I remember, it was in a very unique position where you're bridging 2 major runs of Daredevil.
Yeah, like 2 big name runs, like, picking up after Charles left and setting up for when Chip took over.
Right. And I know, Josue, you were a huge fan of the Charles Soule run, especially, and then we absolutely love the Chip run. Like it's won Book of the Year in our End of the Year awards 2 years in a row. So I mean, it's
that doesn't surprise me at all.
So I wanted to kind of talk about this because you get a hold of what is a marquee character for Marvel, Daredevil.
Yep.
It's had a movie. That's a major character. And a TV show.
And what a movie.
Well, it's better than Elektra. Anyways, so
wow, you're really setting that bar high, aren't
you? So one thing I really think is cool is they give you Daredevil, but it's entirely an introspective story. It's entirely him in recovery. There's no action, and you get to really dig into the history and the mythos of the character, and you get to bring back all these costumes, and most importantly to me, you get to bring back all these characters. Yeah. And I absolutely loved a couple of them. I love the bit with Kingpin, especially because we're reading the Chip run right now, and Kingpin is such a different character than we've ever seen him, and he's just so unique and great. So seeing this again, him just at Matt's bedside, was just kind of like really cool to see them interact like that.
I think that was my favorite issue, the Kingpin issue #4.
Yeah. I personally was a big fan of the Karen Page issue because I love Karen Page. I'm a sucker for the run with Kevin Smith and Joe Quesada, where she, so I love that run. So that was really cool to see her. And I like, that's the one time throughout that series, I got a little bit choked up, like I was like, Karen, no. And then I really love the one. Oh, good.
I would say that the Karen Page issue, was that #2?
I think so,
it was #2. I think that was the one I was perhaps the most worried about, because I was like, man, I don't know if this is going to land or if like this is in poor taste, because it was my second series. Like I'd only done Daughters before that, and then to be kind of thrust into the limelight with Daredevil, I was like, shit, man, I kind of got it all on the line here. This is going to go very well for me. This is going very poorly.
Yeah.
So a lot of those issues and working with that kind of emotional introspective stuff, I wasn't sure how it was going to go. So for the most part, I think it went okay.
Yeah.
Were you a longtime Daredevil fan?
I mean, I've liked Daredevil, but I'm not. I wasn't the guy who was collecting every issue. I had to go back and do a lot of reading.
Nice. Okay. Because it's like such a almost like an integral part of like Matt's like mythos. Like at the moment for the last 10 years, I've been following Daredevil for at least collectively buying every floppy since the Mark Waid run. So jumping into Charles's run, and then how the way that ended, and then getting your mini, I was just like, man, this is really cool. That's the way he says it. It's very introspective, a part of Matt. And then at the time, I was like, oh, shit, this is very different. Nobody does a mini in between an old run into a new one to just set it up. But damn, you did a great job of setting up the tone for Chip, even though Chip's doing a great job on his own. But just the way we're left off with Matt, and then because what he does, the last action that he does, and then what you have to deal with is pretty fucking huge. That where we get left off into starting Chip's run, it's just it's almost, you left it very believable to where he's at, and then what Chip has to do after that with him. It was an incredible run because I wasn't familiar with their name at the time when I was getting it, but I was like, this shit's really good.
Okay, no one was.
I mean, honestly, I didn't know that was your second book. So when we're setting up for this interview, and just oh shit, I'm going down your list, Daredevil, oh shit, it's that in between mini. This is like, honestly, this is very fucking important. I became so much more excited for this interview because like you wrote such a great part.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't so much that I set Chip up for his run; it's that I knew where he was, and I had to basically play catch up to get there. But yeah, like it was a really interesting project when Dev emailed me. He's like, "Hey, we want to do this Daredevil mini," and it starts out in the hospital. I'm like, "Okay, great. Where's it go from there?" He's like, "He gets out of the hospital. Like, cool. Like by the end of the first issue? No, like by the end of the series." I'm like, okay, cool. So we're doing 5 issues in a hospital room. Okay, that's okay. Sure, I can do that. Sure, I'm early in my career. I don't turn anything down. I mean, you certainly don't turn out Daredevil.
That's true.
Yeah, right.
But I think that's the thing. Sorry, one last thing. That was the thing where it's like so many like revamps, so many new number ones with the new creative team. You'll just have a whole different tonal shift because different will tackle it differently. But to just have an actual bridging chapter between 2 incredible runs, it was just something that's like was unprecedented for Marvel. So it was just like, you start at the hospital, you end at the hospital, but it's still, you love Daredevil, you're gonna love this little piece because it's still that much more important too. It's still that important.
Yeah.
No, it's good. Glad you guys liked it.
Yeah, definitely. And especially because I want to move on from Daredevil a bit because we've got a couple things to talk about. But I did want to throw out, I also really like the episode or the issue with the dad. With his dad, like, because I'm I really liked the series they did from the dad's perspective, the Battling Jack Murdoch series, which is really good. So that was kind of cool when he came in, and I was like, oh man, this is the way to end it. This is great. I love it. Like, so yeah.
We're saving Battling Jack for the last issue for that. Just that real punch to the gut.
Oh yeah, totally. It was perfect. So, next I want to talk about Taskmaster. Now, Taskmaster is my favorite Marvel villain. And I absolutely love him. I think he's really unique. And you did it was a 5-issue mini, right?
Yep.
Yeah. 5-issue mini with Taskmaster, self-contained story, not really hard connected to anything, wasn't drawn into King of Black or anything like that.
No.
So this is the first time that your name, like, I started remembering your name.
Right.
Is because I'm reading this and I'm like, this is incredible. Like, I loved this book. Like, it's just so good. For our listeners out there, pick this up. I'm sure it's going to be a trade.
I think it's out in July at this point.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah, definitely pick up the trade. It's a 5-issue mini. And short pitch, Maria Hill is dead. Taskmaster is blamed for it. He's on the run, and the only person that will help him is Nick Fury Jr. But Nick has a cost. And that's basically the adventure of that. It's got some great guest starring roles, including Hyperion and Phil Coulson. It's got Okoye in it. It's got Black Widow in it. And it's got
White Fox.
White Fox, yes. It's got an amazing twist at the end. Like, it just blew my mind. And so I don't have any questions about this series. All I really want to say is I really liked this a lot. Like,
thank you.
And routinely it would crack us up on our show as we're talking about it. Because because comics are expensive, we don't both buy the same books every week, just to save a little bit of money. So I was the one reviewing Taskmaster, but I was sitting here holding the thing up to our webcams to show us way funny bits and stuff. So while we're live recording,
Taskmaster's freak out in the first issue of like when he realizes who's after him, it's just like priceless. Like, you can see the fear through the skull face, through the skull mask. It's just so goddamn funny, dude. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that, like, Taskmaster's a character that he can be hard to draw. Like, skulls don't come easily to everybody, and then even then, it's a skull mask on a goofy dude. But like, Alessandro, in those 5 issues, he drew the best Taskmaster I've ever seen. Like,
dude, absolutely,
it was so expressive with the skull without being like overly cartoonish or exaggerated. And like, I don't know how he managed to make that bony face emote so much, and even in a way where you're not like, okay, hold on, that's a mask. Why is it acting like that? You just accept it, and it just looks so good.
Yeah, I like I said, he's my favorite Marvel villain, and I really like that you're so true to the character, because again, as a character, I really enjoy and really follow strongly. I love the fact that it's not that he's a coward. It's that he's smart, and he's like,
Yep.
oh, can't win this fight. I'm out of here, and runs. Like he makes a point of that, I believe, in the narrative, where he's like, the difference between me and the others is I know when to get out. Basically, like I know when to bug out, and I really liked that.
And I mean, I would take exception to that, in that I would clarify that he is a coward.
Well, see, like I really love that part, like a lot. I go LARPing, and one of the things that you can do is run away. If shit is the fan, you can run away. And there's been so many games where people just get in their feels because their character ends up dying. Why?
Yeah.
Because they wanted to be the hero of their own story. Guess what? That's not what the wastes are for. You can fucking run. And that's why I love Taskmaster so much.
Because I mean, he's happy to fight if he thinks he can win.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't think he can win, he's out of there. Like, what's to gain otherwise?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, like when he was beating up on the goons in Wakanda, he's like, yeah, this is great because I know I'm going to win. So they make me a bully? Absolutely.
His line, I guess your line of like, yo, I don't know how you deal with failure here in Wakanda. Mwah, brilliant.
Yeah, and it's another thing, like, you know, it reminds me of Angel of Rockford Files.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll like give up, but also if he thinks he can get one over on someone, he'll be an absolute piece of shit about it. And like that's basically Taskmaster.
Yeah, which is reflected in the ending of the book, which was so great. I'm not going to spoil this book for you guys because I legit want everybody to pick up the trade.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil the ending either. But before we move on, I did want to talk a bit about, I guess, like the feel of the ending because it is fucking awesome. I was not expecting the last 2 pages. Just the whole thing is just worth it. But those last 2 pages are just like, oh well, fuck. Okay, cool. But that being said, like it's just like it's just so completely different because reading through it, there's a little editor's note where Nick Jr. says, yeah, I did something during the Daughters of the Dragon series arc, and it's like, oh shit, I gotta go back and read that, and just for just study because I've never had my hands on it. Little did I know it was an online exclusive one. So that being said, I was like, holy, as I'm reading it, I'm really liking it. It's Misty Knight, Colleen Wing doing their thing as a duo. It's fucking awesome. And then you get the Taskmaster reveal because that's where they kind of joined up, or at least like where they link a little bit with Nick Jr.
Yeah, that was like the last time they saw each other.
Right. Yeah. And that part was awesome. Like the way Nick Fury has to use Wing to just almost like to pay Taskmaster for something. But then I want to go talk about the ending of like the second issue where it's just like there's a villain, like he has his own agenda, but the whole time like feeling, or it's almost feeling like this villain is like Winter is feels almost a little too dimensional. It's like they keep throwing out the he's really obsessed with the spy movie genre or like the villainy part of that. So what do you think he's at? But then you get to that ending, and you're just like, holy shit, there's fucking layers to this guy and what he wants to do or what he wants to end up at. And then compared to the Taskmaster ending, it's like there's still very much the same 616 world, but holy shit, you can just write the shit out of 2 different very endings. And
totally.
To listeners, I highly recommend on the Marvel app. It's Daughters of the Dragon. It's fucking awesome too.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where the root of the idea of, because when Chris Robinson, who was the editor to start the series off, he sent it to me. He's like, he had some really specific things he wanted out of it. He's like, Taskmaster is going to be framed for murdering Maria Hill. He's got to go see all these different characters. I think he even suggested that like ending bit. I don't remember, but I was like, okay, but I want to team up with Nick Fury because like I remember back when we did Daughters of the Dragon, I was like, man, these two bouncing off each other are just so good, and I really want to see how that can work for like 5 issues as opposed to just 3 or 4 pages or however long we did it over in Daughters.
And that was one of my pluses too. For like by the second issue, like the back and forth of like being in Nick Jr.'s bunker, and then just like their dialogue back and forth was just like really cool. It's something actually I would love to see like be like on the screen too. Like their relationship was really cool. Yeah, because
I mean they're basically a horrible old married couple at that point in time who hate each other but can't get away from each other for various reasons.
So true.
Nice. And then I want to move on and talk about the Black Cat.
Sure.
I'm a big fan of Felicia Hardy. We have another show where it's basically a comic book club, and we read the Evil That Men Do mini with her and Spider-Man, and I just gushed about her the entire time. I just love the character; she's just great. Now you've had 2 runs with Felicia.
Yes, I mean
same run.
This
I
run is
mean,
basically the same
renumbered.
run. It's just there's a hiatus and a new number one. So you
Yeah.
could say it's 2 runs, but essentially it's the same run.
They still
Yeah.
keep the legacy number, so yeah, it would count as the same, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I'm very pleased about. As
Cool.
I basically want to see that number go up.
Mhm.
Every point we go on beyond 5 or 10 issues is like a personal triumph for me. So I got to see those legacy numbers go up.
And then so when the hiatus happened and the
Mhm.
renumbering started, she was drawn to King in Black.
Yep.
And so when I picked it up, I originally wasn't sure if this was a new series or was it just going to be in a King in Black mini, because half the things are one or the other.
Oh yeah.
And I'm pleased to find it is a series. So the first thing I want to make sure of, because I can't find really confirmation, is this an ongoing?
Yes, it is.
Thank
Nice.
goodness. Good. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why that would be confusing, given that relaunch with King in Black branding and
Mhm.
not a lot of series start a new number one with crossover branding on it.
Right. I think the only one I
Um,
remember like that is Deadpool from like Secret Invasion.
Mhm.
Started out
Yeah.
like that.
So, 'cause now even Sword, I think, had its first issue out
Oh,
before
yeah.
before it got into King in Black.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's an ongoing. The first non-King in Black issue came out almost 2 weeks ago. Next week, I think, is our next issue number 5. So yeah, we're still rolling along.
Awesome.
Number 5 basically starts the arc that will tie up the whole big story from from 1 to 12 previously.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah, and that was the one thing I was going to say is really cool is I had read 1 through 12, and then I had kind of forgotten.
Mhm.
And I've read the new series, obviously, and I went back to read 1 through 12 before this interview, and I was like, oh, that's right. And then I thought about that newest issue, and I'm like, oh, this is all referring back to, and I finally remembered all that. And I was like, oh, this is really cool, tying back to the previous series. So I'm kind of excited to see how that all like comes to a wrap.
Yeah, and like number 4 was meant to be kind of catching our breath a little bit, just a change of pace for one issue before we get into the next 3 issues or the Big Thieves Guild heist storyline.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also kind of meant to catch people up a little bit. We're still going through the events of issues 1 through 12. Well, and then again the new series, but from someone else's perspective, from Queen Cat's perspective.
Yeah, which is cool. I like that there's like a flip of Felicia now, and I love their interaction and everything. It's just I thought it was really cool. I'm kind of excited to see where that goes too. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a bit. I've been meaning to get to Queen Cat file, but couldn't quite to the right.
Yeah,
they point on, but we got it in the end.
Yeah. And I did want to briefly talk about the King in Black bit because
Sure.
Unless I'm mistaken, this is your first time being a part of one of these big Marvel crossovers.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've done a lot of like stuff for Spider-Geddon and Spider-Verse. That's kind of where these but as far as writing like my own series, this is the first time I've had to take an ongoing narrative and slot it into a big cross.
Yeah.
Oh, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sorry.
We lost you for a sec. That's fine. Yeah, I think you did a really great job of finding a spot that Felicia could fill in this crossover, because it's not like she's going to walk up and punch Null. You know what I mean? Like she worked to her strengths, which I thought was great. It's a heist, so.
Yeah, I mean, I can't take all the credit for that.
Yeah.
When I was talking to Nick Lowe, the editor, our editor on the book, we were going through the King of Black outline that Donnie put together, and Nick had earmarked Doctor Strange as a thing for us to get into, as we've already been messing around with strange stuff in the past. So
yeah,
he did a good job of staking out a piece of territory for us to get into.
Yeah. The other thing about Black Cat I wanted to mention, and as we go forward, again, to our fans out there, this is an ongoing series, so you can get into this very quickly. There's only 4 issues out there. It's not going to be hard to hunt these issues down to be, from the beginning. But one thing that I really like about this run is she has a crew.
Yeah,
which is a lot of fun. Like, she's got boys, and that's like, I like her being able to play off of people. that aren't superheroes. You know what I mean? Like she's gets to play off of some like friends, and I really like that.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to do. Basically, when Nick gave me a call, he said, we're doing this Black Cat spinoff book out of the events that are going on in ASM. I'd like to get you on that. And so I had started doing my back reading, and you go right back to her first appearance in was it 1979?
Oh wow,
it was a while ago. But like the first time she appears, the first thing we see her doing is assembling her crew with Bruno Granger and Boris Korps.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is perfect. I was like, these, and then like really quickly I had to go look on Marvel Fandom Wiki and see if they were dead.
Yeah, right.
Or what's been going on with them in the last however many years. And I was like, man, this is perfect, because like I knew I wanted her to have a supporting cast, but I didn't want her to be part of a team.
Mm-hmm.
It's still Black Cat, right? She's still the star of the show. But I think it's really, I always like it when characters have their own people that hang out with them, their friends, their supporting crew. And having a thieves crew, I think, is a lot more fun to me than like, just people who live on the same block or like your family.
Yeah.
It's like, no, these are recidivist criminals who hang out with you and do jobs.
Yeah, totally. I like having that almost like, because she's definitively the leader. So like you said, she's not a part of a team. She's the leader of the team, and they're not like such standout characters that they're going to overshadow her. It's her book. So,
yeah, like there's never any there's never any fight for control of the spotlight. I never feel bad if the boys go an issue without getting any lines, because they're still there, they're doing their thing, but we all know who the star of the show is.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, and so that takes us on to something that is actually coming out April 7th, which day of recording is tomorrow. New Comic Book Day Wednesday, which is something we always celebrate here on We Have Issues. We have a new book for you.
Yeah.
Using a very very valuable and popular IP. And I'm hearing a lot of buzz about this. So tell me about Magic the Gathering #1.
Yeah. So I was contacted by Amanda LaFranco from Boom. Would have been, I think, in May. Right in the doldrums of COVID, all my books were on hiatus, and I was like, man, I wish I had something to do. And they emailed me and they said, hey, do you want to write this Magic comic? I'm like, well, shit, there you go. Because like I have a lot of affection for Magic. I played it a lot when I was a kid.
Fuck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Through the 90s, I was really keen on it. Got in around Ice Age, around 4th edition at that point in time. And played about to the point I went to university. And so yeah, I thought it'd just be a fun change of pace. Like I've been working pretty much exclusively in superhero and superhero adjacent properties for Marvel, and going completely in another direction, and looking at this fantastical multiverse that Wizards of the Coast had, and then that Boom is doing a comic series in. It was just a really interesting experience for me. So we've been grinding on that basically ever since.
Yeah, I played Magic when I was a teenager too, and I jumped in probably like right after you, I think. So 5th edition.
Right.
And one thing people don't know about Magic the Gathering from the outside of the Magic bubble is there's a lot of cool story and lore here.
Oh, fuck
no, absolutely.
Yeah, like it's not just a card game. And I remember distinctly during the Tempest and Weatherlight era, like I'm like, air pirates traveling around planes, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, this is incredible. And I remember that sticking with me really hard, and I've always really liked Magic lore since. So from what I read of the previews and everything, this is going to be Ravnica based. I saw that Jace was mentioned. It's going to be the Planeswalkers, I'm assuming.
Yeah. It basically starts in Ravnica, given that Ravnica is Magic's New York City, right?
Yeah.
This is where a majority of a lot of our Planeswalker characters are based. But yeah, it's following Ral Zarek, Vraska, and Kaya, and who are all three are guild masters in Ravnica. All three are Planeswalkers, And at this point in time in the book, all three are attacked. There's a coordinated assassination attempts on all three of them, and from there they basically have to figure out what's happening, what does this mean, where's this coming from, and basically follow them from there.
This is really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like, oh, go ahead.
I started playing around my college years, but it's like very late. So like Gate Crash era, 2011 times. But after that, it's like the lore was very much present, was very much prominent about like in the tokens, like underneath each of the card. You can actually start linking them together after so long of so many cards and lore that like my partner can just like is obsessed with Liliana. So she can just like pretty much like have a whole seminar on like her history. It's just like how much she's obsessed with her. And she is really cool though. So yeah, I'll go for it.
I was gonna say like all the characters are great because I've been out of the game for about 20 years, so I had a lot to catch up on when I got the job. And because I knew basically nothing about the modern status quo. I was like, oh yeah, it's magic. So the crew of the Weatherlight, are they still around? And it's like, no, this is several hundred years later. So like, oh, okay. I guess I got some reading to do now. But it's amazing because I think back to the card sets that were coming out when I was playing, like Ice Age or Homelands and stuff like that. It was all really loosey goosey. Like you kind of got some idea of what was happening based on the flavor text and the art of the cards.
Yeah,
but it was very much a puzzle with a lot of missing pieces because we were kids. We didn't have the money to buy a whole set. But now it's just you have such a thoughtfully curated set of worlds that you've got a continuity there that's set to rival any sort of superhero universe's backstory.
Like there's some games like you can play some games where it's just like it creates its own little chess matches at times where you're just like, holy shit, like you create your own visuals in your head of like the cards you're playing. It's like this would be really cool, and like to be adapted into a comic, it's like it makes so much sense to do.
Yeah. And I mean, like there have been Magic comics before, but this is the first one out of Boom. And so far people seem to be pretty excited about it. Like the first print run sold out last week.
Sick.
So it's gone back for second printing already, which I'm pretty hyped about.
Nice.
And
that cover though with Mateo Scalera is just so cool too.
Oh, it's so good. And like Iguara doing the art on it. He's like a big Magic player. So
nice.
He tells the story when he got the call to do the book, he was putting together a deck. And
nice.
And he's really great to take because he's very familiar with the world and the art and the creatures and the characters, and he's really thoughtful in the way that he takes these elaborate and sophisticated pieces of concept art and final art and turn them into stuff that works in a comic book. Because an elaborate and sophisticated painting on a card is great, but it doesn't have to do anything other than be there. Whereas characters for comics, you got to keep moving them around. You keep putting them through their paces. They have to do stuff, and he's just done such a great job with that.
Yeah,
nice. That possibly makes me more excited for the book now too.
And speaking of covers, that's why we brought up the cover. I'm counting 16 variant covers.
Holy shit!
So this Boom is putting some oomph behind this, which is great.
They're definitely putting a push on for it. So hopefully it lives up to it.
We love Boom on our show. It's honestly because when we review comics every New Comic Book Day, we always talk about publishers individually, and we always start with Boom. Yeah, because we always have something from Boom. So if you tune into our episode this weekend, you'll probably hear us talking about Magic this weekend. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Good.
No, never mind. Go ahead.
Okay.
I was going to say, this is the first time I've worked with Boom, and they've been great. I'm working with Bryce and Amanda and Kenzie, and they're all super supportive and really excited and really collaborative. So I've had nothing but good things to say about working there.
Nice.
And we're we really like we're big on making sure, because I'm big on childhood literacy. There, sorry, the word escaped me for a moment there. Right. So I love that they have Kaboom and Boombox and stuff meant for younger audiences, and they make a concentrated effort pretty much better than anyone, in my opinion. And so that's one of the reasons we absolutely love them. So I just wanted to give that out. So
for sure.
But you mentioned the artist Iguara, who's doing the Magic series with you. I'm actually a big fan of theirs because they did the second half of Ghost Spider, which Josue knows.
Oh,
Spider Gwen is my bae. She's my favorite.
Yes.
So yeah. Very, very excited to check that out. And as a lapsed Magic fan,
There you go.
I will say that Magic has been making some really interesting moves lately.
Oh,
Because
totally.
between the boom thing and then also Josue, I don't know if we've even talked about this. They have a partnership with D&D now,
Oh no shit, that's right.
where there's going to be like D&D properties in Magic the Gathering, and I'm
yeah.
like, excuse me.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Wait, there was
They're branched out. They have a Warhammer promo thing coming down the pipe too, don't they?
Ooh, I didn't heard about that one.
Yeah, I saw it on the Warhammer community site a few months ago.
That's awesome. So yeah, they're making some moves, and the trading card market is pretty hot right now, and so that's really cool. So, but yeah, guys, so check it out. So Magic the Gathering #1, published by Boom, will be available at your local comic book stores on April the 7th. Hopefully, the day this episode goes out. So hopefully you listen to this before you went to the store and you can pick up your copy. As he said, it's already sold out. Maybe you'll get lucky and get a copy still on the wall. If not, reserve that second printing.
Yes,
And of course, keep an eye out for Black Cat, which is currently ongoing and is wonderful, and everybody out there should be reading it. It's great.
Oh yeah, also tomorrow
yeah.
Avengers Mech Strike #3 comes out too.
Mech Strike. Yeah.
Oh, nice. You're doing Mech Strike?
Yep,
Mhm.
yep.
Oh, no, I gotta buy it. Again, we make choices. I spend over $100 a week on comics, so choices need to be made.
No, I'm not faulting anybody.
But that's now on my list. So yeah, awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Jed. Not just for joining us, but of course, obviously for these books that you've been reading or writing, and I'm really enjoying them. And I look forward to reviewing them in the future on the show. If you guys want to follow Jed he's on Twitter at Jed MacKay, MacKay.
Yep.
And once again, currently writing Black Cat for Marvel, Magic the Gathering for Boom. Is there anything else you want to plug, Jed? Anything else you want to throw out there before we go?
No, that's about it. I'm glad I remembered about Mech Strike because for some reason that was slipping my mind. But yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I'm glad you guys have been enjoying the books, and I'm always happy to talk about them.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, we're very happy to talk to you. Great time, and I cannot wait to pick up Magic 1 tomorrow. So, and everybody out there, thank you so much for joining us. And here at Geek Elite Media, we always want to ask you to remember to geek out.
This concludes our broadcast.